What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, back with our 65th episode of our Quack experimental podcast. Now, full disclosure, full disclaimer, full whatever it is up front, transparency, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to name it. I'm having a pretty shitty week. And I was going to do this a little bit differently, because I was just going to sit here, chilling, maxing and relaxing, podcast and do whatever it is, I was going to sit here with my favorite little energy drink, because why not? I was going to sit here with a couple of little donuts, because, why not? And I was just going to munch away the same time during the episode, because this week I just don't care. Well, it's not so much that I don't care, it's just feels something, man. But anyway, I sat down, got ready to record and all that. Then I just realized, how the fuck am I gonna do that if I'm wearing all of this? Well, we'll figure it out as we go. But anyway, speaking of going, let's go. Because first up, we're going to talk about The Medium. Now, The Medium is an upcoming game that is not exclusive, because I'm sure, as you know, it is a multi-platform game on the next generation Xbox Series L and PC. Now, so, if you've been paying attention to the marketing push and all from Microsoft this entire time, you'll know that 4K 60 and maybe ray tracing or maybe 120 FPS or something, but 4K 60 is their main push and focus and message that they're putting out there. Now, you may remember that The Medium, when it was shown off, it looked pretty decent. It's one of the very few games, I think there was 2 games in the May showcase that actually interested me. The Medium was one of them. Gives me a very Silent Hill-esque vibe, for obvious reasons. I'm not going to go into them here, but for obvious reasons. Now, of course, with the whole 4K 60 messaging, people automatically assume pretty much everything they show off is going to be 4K 60. On the Xbox Series L, that is, of course. Now, many articles have been forced to go back and retroactively remove references to 60 FPS on Xbox Series L in relation to The Medium. Oh, also, by the way, because we're doing things a little bit differently, you may or may not hear it. I have the window open. Nice breeze coming in. I need it today. I just do. It's late at night. It is... What time is it? It's 10:37 p.m. So, there's not traffic. You might hear one or two now and then, but back to the point, because I'm getting a little bit off topic. Now, so yes, it is pretty much all but confirmed that The Medium on the Xbox Series L is going to be 30 FPS. That is another L for the world's most powerful console. Yikes. 12 teraflops ain't saving you there, boyo. Now, remember, back in May when they had this showcase, remember pretty much everything they showed off was developed in engine and shown on a PC with recommended or with expected equivalent specs of the Xbox Series L. So all those 60 FPS games are looking slightly less 60 FPS at this point. So all I will say is, naturally, I will be playing The Medium on PC, where I can play it at a high, proper, true frame rate and amazing quality. And you know what? You better pick up that phone, baby, because I fucking called it. Speaking of which, look how fluid my background is. That's pretty sick, right? Pretty slick. But speaking of 30 frames per second, I want to take a second and destroy some fanboy logic and destroy some outlets and all who are just absolute trash. Now, I'm sure for all you guys out there, all you people who have been keeping up with the PS5 and people who have been keeping up with the Xbox Series L and whatnot, basically all the fanboys out there on both sides that hype up all the next gen stuff. Don't forget, next gen is basically already a failure, a technical failure at least anyway. But all of these people hyping up and big opening all their SSDs, their quick load times, their quick boot times, their ray tracing, their next gen this, their next gen that, and then these same people come out and defend 30 frames per second. It's ridiculous. A literal technological failure and step back from what is, or was at least anyway, it still basically is because everything else is still a failure, a 3-decade-old standard. That's right, all those TVs. Now I said 3-decade-old because we're talking 2005-ish, 3 decades prior to that, because that's when everything just fucking tanked when they all went to HD on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And that's when all the frame rates just completely tanked. Because pretty much the majority of stuff before that, unless it was on the N64, was 60 FPS. Super Nintendo? Now, we're excluding PAL, of course, because PAL is a whole weird thing. But just remember, we were 50 FPS. And the entire time, we were pushing for 60 because we knew it was better. But remember, a game running at half the frame rate of the screen, half the frame rate and half the refresh rate of TVs 30, 40, 45 years older than it. If that's not a technological failure, I don't know what is. There's nothing next gen about failure. Having already had their consoles drop from all this original 60 FPS promises and all the old stuff, all the prior stuff running at 60 FPS, and then they drop it down to 30 for 2 generations, and then they're trying to big up back to 60. Congratulations, you're back to where you were 15 years and 2 generations ago. I'm not going to praise that. You're a fucking joke. Absolute joke. So remember, if you're out there saying SSD this, quick load time that, resume this, ray tracing, multiple games on suspend, next gen this, next gen that, and then say 30 FPS is okay, well, go back to fucking clown world, boyo. But hopefully, speaking of next gen, even though some of it is going to be 30 FPS at this point, at least on consoles, well, we're going to quickly make a very, very brief mention about the upcoming Xbox event on July 23rd. Now, this upcoming Xbox event promises to show off a huge amount of first-party stuff. Specifically, they have gone out and listed the first proper campaign reveal for Halo Infinite, as well as some gameplay for Halo Infinite. We're going to see a bunch of other stuff for existing games that have already been announced as well. Apparently, from what I read, there will also be a smidge of third-party games in there too, but first-party will be the focus. Also, they have said that there will be, and we can expect, some world premieres and announcements of multi-platform games, because they will be coming to Xbox Series L and PC, and possibly Xbox One, depending on, since they could be first-party. But anyway, the big point and the reason I'm bringing this one up is it will be happening on July 23rd, this coming Thursday, at 5 p.m. BST. Now, you can go and check out whatever that is in your own time zone and whatnot, but have no fear, Q is here, because I will be streaming it. I think I saw somewhere that it's going to last for about an hour or so. I have no problem. I'm going to be streaming it the entire time anyway. We will see. Hopefully it's not as much of a disappointment as the previous one was from Microsoft, as well as the PS5 showcase. That was pretty awful too. But anyway, the big thing, and pretty much the only thing I truly care about, is Halo Infinite. We'll see how it goes. And who knows, maybe they're even going to talk about updates for the Master Chief Collection on Xbox Series L, or Halo 5 on Xbox Series L, whatever. We will see. They have also said that there will be no price reveal or no release date reveal just yet. It's all about the games. But speaking of something that's all about the games, we're talking about one of the greatest games of all time. It's only going to be a quick little mention here, but Persona 4 Golden. That's right, Persona 4 Golden, one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, and the first one to buck the trend, if you will, of a series that was previously Sony exclusive, even if they were from Atlas, which is a third party, but had only released on Sony platforms previously. Now, of course, Persona 4 Golden has done the unthinkable in a way. It became the first one to launch on a non-Sony platform. It launched on PC, on Steam, about a month or so ago, during the PC gaming event, which was kind of roughly a month ago, give or take. Now, of course, the most important thing to take away from all of this is not only is it an absolutely amazing game, and I highly recommend it to any JRPG fan out there, but they have sold 500 copies in 1 month. Now, you might be wondering, how does that stack up? I mean, the game has been out for 7 years on the Vita. Surely it's not putting a dent in their sales at all. Well, 500 copies on Steam in 1 month versus 7 years on the Vita, which sold just over 1 million units. It's a pretty interesting comparison right there. This is what happens when you release on PC, the best platform, and naturally, I can't wait for all the other Persona games to come over. Give me Persona 3 FES, we already have Persona 4 Golden, give me Persona 5 The Royal. Hell, give me Persona 1 and the 2 different versions of Persona 2. And if you really, really want, even though it's going to be no major want from me, but I would still support them, you can give me pretty much all the other ones out there too. Persona 3 Dancing, Persona 4 Dancing, Persona 5 Dancing, I reluctantly say Persona Q 1 and 2, and of course, even the fighting games, they can come over. They will be massively supported because, well, clearly, PC gamers love quality games. Just to give you a comparison, Persona 4 Golden, when it launched on Steam, became the #1 most concurrently played JRPG ever on Steam. Just really, really goes to show. It's an amazing game. I'm hoping to replay it this year, but we'll see how that goes. More on that a little bit later. You know, it just hit me. It's kind of completely unrelated to our next topic, but I guess kind of not at the same time. I just realized I'm still waiting on something I pre-ordered back in May. I'm still waiting on my Streets of Rage 1 and Streets of Rage 2 cassette soundtracks. Yeah, originally they were due in May, then they were pushed to June, and then they were pushed to July. I checked it 2 days ago. They're still in July. But anyway, back to the one we're going to talk about here, because we're going to go with Nintendo. And you might be wondering, Q, what are you doing talking about Nintendo? Well, it's me going to point and laugh, since we all know the Nintendrones will buy anything and everything. Especially if it's ridiculously overpriced, because they love to pay for lower quality while paying ridiculous premium prices, over the top prices. And, well, they're used to being abused and ripped off. That is the Nintendo fanbase's modus operandi. Now, what are we talking about this time? Well, since they have absolutely no upcoming high-profile games confirmed for this year, well, since really all their first-party games are now TBA and likely years away, Lego, that's right, Lego has the Nintendrones and the Nintendo fanbase covered, because they are launching, officially, a NES Lego set. You heard that correctly, a NES Lego set, or for you Americans out there who incorrectly call it an NES Lego set, a Nintendo Entertainment System Lego set. It's going to include a mini-sized Lego, well, mini-sized, oh, Jesus, my notes here were terrible. It's going to include a mini-sized Lego NES, and an old-style CRT TV. It's also going to include one joypad and one cartridge. All of this, of course, doesn't work since it's only Lego, and you have to build the whole thing. It works in the sense that the cartridge slot opens and you can put the controller in, but yeah, it doesn't actually work. It's not a NES Mini or anything like that, but yeah, you get the idea. Now, crazily enough about this is the price, which we'll get to now in a moment, but it is going to launch on August 1st exclusively in Lego stores. By the way, I never knew there were Lego stores. Maybe it must be an American thing. There's definitely not any here in Ireland anyway. Maybe there is in the rest of Europe, but hey, that's the rest of Europe. But it's also going to be 2021 for all big other retailers. Now, here's the kicker. So this is a very small Lego kit. Now, Lego has been kind of infamous as one of the bigger markup and more cost prohibitive hobbies, if you will, over the last couple of years. Warhammer has also been another one that has priced many people out of the hobby. But this small little set, which is, it seems to be roughly the size of the NES Mini, size-wise. Now remember, it's Lego. There's no technology in it. It doesn't work. But it seems to be roughly the size of the NES Mini. with a small cartridge, a small joypad, and a small little CRT TV. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head what the price of the NES Mini was. I want to say it was maybe $70, $80, something along those lines. So how much do you think this NES Mini official Lego Nintendo set is? Well, let's take a couple of things into consideration. It is officially licensed by Nintendo. My God, I am bright and reflective. It is officially licensed by Lego, obviously. So, you'd wonder two things. Surely it's going to be a little bit of a premium price. Maybe it's $80. You would be wrong. Maybe it's $100. You'd also be wrong. Maybe it's $120. Keep going. $150? $199. Nope. $200? Keep going, boyo. $230 is what you are looking at for this little Lego set. Why? Because they know they can rip off all the Nintendrones, all the fan base. You will have every single usual suspect retro gaming YouTuber, specifically the American ones, because they're the ones with the NES nostalgia, who will be all over this, making it a success, buying millions of these. And I'll be sitting here laughing my ass off. In fact, one of the people who makes, in fact, I shouldn't say one of the people, my guy, my boy, hello fellow teenagers, the guy who makes me this fan art, the guy who makes these end cards, the guys who makes all these subscribe things. Shout out to him, by the way, for being amazing, because he's a beast. He's a big Lego guy. And for $230, he can buy some big, huge, expansive set. Something big and cool. Instead of a little, handheld, shitty, mini NES. That doesn't even work. Get ripped off, drones. At this point, you deserve it. It's not like they can rip you off with games, because you just don't get them. But speaking of rip-offs and people getting ripped off and all as well, we're going to talk a little bit about Xbox Live Gold, which is the paid online service for Xbox consoles, at least anyway. It's the paid online multiplayer service. You require it to play almost any game on Xbox Live to play it multiplayer online, even free-to-play games, which kind of renders them not really free-to-play. Now, of course, it is more important to point out that this service is free on PC, and you, when playing Microsoft games and first-party Xbox games, you get to play on these same Xbox Live servers with people who are paying for it, but you're getting the service for free because we as PC gamers can stand up for ourselves. Now, you see a lot of this topic and article going around the last couple of days, and frankly I think it's completely overblown, and I think it's just 100% possible fanboyism. I would hope that I'm wrong in the sense that what everyone else is preaching it as and questioning about, it would be a pro-consumer move, and it would be better overall for gamers in general, or at least the 7 of you out there to play on Xbox. That's right, you're now 1 up on the Stadia, which is down to 2. Anyway, the ability to buy Xbox subscriptions would come in several different forms. They would come in, you could buy a recurring 1-month subscription, you could buy a recurring 3-month subscription, or you could buy a recurring 12-month yearly subscription. Now, the ability to buy the 12-month yearly subscription has actually recently been removed. This was originally spotted first, and then officially confirmed by Microsoft, with no reason given. Now, many people are automatically jumping on the hype train and speculating about this, that Xbox will be going free-to-play online, properly at least anyway, properly free-to-play online for the Xbox Series L. This will be gold, basically Xbox Live goldless. So, no matter what game you're going to play, not just if it's a free-to-play one, but even if it's something like Halo Infinite or something other big like that, you will not need Xbox Live Gold. That is the theory behind all of this. I think the reason for this is basically because the Series L is going to launch in just only a few months away. It might burn all those people. If you were to say, roll around in September and then buy a 1 month subscription, and then 2 months later the new console launches, and hey, you don't even need to play it or to pay for it to play online and stuff. Yeah, you'd feel a little bit sore in that regard. Now, I don't think that's the case. Personally, while I do wish it was the case, it doesn't affect me anyway, but while I do think it would be good for everyone else and it would be great for Microsoft to abolish that paywall, it would really appeal to a lot of people. Personally, I don't think it's the case. I think that they're just going to roll it in some way, shape, and form into different versions of Game Pass. Maybe it's going to be incorporated into one of the current ones. Maybe there's going to be a new version rolling around. In fact, I believe there is a version of Game Pass that comes with Xbox Live Gold in there. Maybe they all do. I don't know. I don't care about Game Pass. I don't rent my games. But you get my point. I think it's going to be only available through Game Pass. Microsoft have been pushing Game Pass big the last couple of months or maybe a year or so, and apparently it's been absolutely thriving and making a shitload of money for both developers and Microsoft in general. I don't know how it works. I haven't read up on the specifications of it in regards to how they make money and all that. But yeah, I just think it's going to be rolled in with Game Pass because that's what everyone is going to want it for. If everyone is going to subscribe to Game Pass, they will automatically have an Xbox Live Gold subscription. So I think it will just be that way. I mean, you pay the subscription once, your Xbox Live Gold, you subscribe for 1 year, or well, Game Pass, you subscribe for 1 year, and you automatically have your 1 year's worth of Gold and your 1 year's worth of Game Pass, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's all taken care of in a one-stop shop. That's how I think it's going to be. Hopefully I'm wrong and that they do remove it, because that will be great for the 7 people who play on Xbox. But, well, maybe we'll find out next Thursday. Maybe not. Maybe we'll have to wait a little bit longer. But onto some real juicy, forward-thinking news here, because, well, we can't have any of that when it comes to consoles, because, let's face it, they're pretty much already out of date. But no, we're going to talk about the real side of it. We're going to talk about the PC hardware side of it, because that is obviously the future going forward. Now, currently, all modern, at least anyway, gaming PCs use DDR4 RAM. But finally, after a delay from 2018, DDR5 has now been officially confirmed. And what I mean by that, well, we'll talk about that just now. So JEDEC, that is JEDEC, Solid State Technology Association, has finalized the DDR5 SDRM, which is basically SD-RAM, standard. Now, the important thing to note about this is only establishing the standard. So the standard is out there. There's going to be research, and there's going to be extra tests and all done from all the different makers, manufacturers, people who will be making products that are using this and all as well. So it's still a way off. But the point is, we have a hard official standard, and we don't have any crazy proprietary stuff, because let's face it, this isn't console. Now, there are actually over 300 members of this association, most notably including stuff like Intel, AMD, and Samsung. Obviously, Intel and AMD are very important because they make your CPUs, and Samsung is one of the biggest maker of the RAM chips as well. So it's not just Samsung RAM, but there will be many other RAM companies out there that use these Samsung chips. Now, the important things to note when it comes to DDR5 include, but are not limited to, some of these we're going to talk about now. One of the big ones is a 4-fold capacity increase. So it goes up to 64 gigabytes, basically 4 times the highest previous amount. Now, this is going to be in LRDIMMs, so LRDIMM. It can increase, that's basically the server style stuff and all that. This can increase in up to 2 terabyte per stick. That's crazy when you think about it. 2 terabytes of RAM in a single stick. Obviously, no one will ever see that in regular old usage and all as well. But they have given another example. Regular DRAM, like we use in all our beautiful, sweet RGB power gaming PCs, they can double your RAM up to... Ooh, that was a flicker I did not like. Don't mess up, video. Don't mess up. But anyway, our regular old style RAM and all that we'll see, there, did it again, in PCs and all as well, up to 128 gigabytes. So that's pretty important. That's a pretty big... Now, of course, this is all price dependent and all as well, but it makes it more... Okay, this is really annoying me. I'm going to have to restart after this segment, but let's try to get through it as quick as possible anyway. So, yes, it might make it easier and more affordable to get a larger amount of RAM. Now, data rate. they've talked about a little bit about the data rate as well. The max data rate has also doubled from the 3.2 gigabits per second of DDR4 up to 6.4 gigabits per second on DDR5. Now, it's speculated that initial launch module speeds will be roughly around the 4.8 gigabits per second mark, which makes perfect sense. You start small, if you will. You don't go whole hog right away, and then you build up and get faster and faster and faster. So the gist of this is basically with DDR5 we get faster memory and more of it. Now, we most likely won't see consumer grade DDR5 until 2022 because the standard is only set now. There's so much more to be done in the meantime, but it's a start. Now, apparently as well that during some sort, well, actually we'll talk about the leak in a moment, but AMD have confirmed that the upcoming Zen 3 EPYC server CPUs will still use DDR4. The Zen 3, of course, is their new 4000 series, which will be out later this year. But the important one is, well, that's their proper desktop stuff, not the laptops 4000 stuff. But their server EPYC stuff is still going to use DDR4. And if a leaked AMD roadmap is to be believed, the one from a few months ago, it suggested that whatever their current Series 2022 chips will be, they will support, and they will be the first company and the first chips as well to support DDR5 and USB 4. Anyway, we'll finish up with one last proper news-related thing, then one other segment, and then we'll finish off with our best one that everyone is always here for each individual time. Or maybe we'll flip the other two backwards. You know, we will flip the other two backwards. So, before we do, we're going to talk about physical PC games. Now, physical PC games, of course, are an increasingly rarity. Well, I was going to say increasingly rarity sight, but an increasingly rare sight these days. Because, well, let's face it, everyone buys on Steam and no one buys on Epic Games. That's the big important thing to take away from here as well. Now, Microsoft, though, are saying, no, you know what, fuck you. Fuck you. That's what Microsoft are saying. Because Microsoft are going to release their upcoming flight simulator in a physical PC form. Now, if you don't remember, but the upcoming Microsoft Flight Simulator, which basically looks photorealistic on PC and will be amazing in beast mode. And I say this as someone who hates flying games, who is terrible at flying, and doesn't care for simulators usually. Now, back to the physical edition side of it. It's going to have a 10-disc physical edition. That's right, 10 discs. It's going to be 85 gigabytes spread across 10 DVDs. And not only that, but it's got a sweet box and a sweet manual as well. Now, strangely enough, the official hardware specs and all have it listed as 150 gigabyte. So we'll have to see what happens there. If it's just going to download more, if it's going to stream more, or if there's just all types of compression on the DVDs so that it will be able to still fit the 150 gigabyte on there. It's still just over half the space required, so we'll see. But it also begs a question that I was wondering about years and years ago and just almost kind of forgot about. Why no Blu-ray version? Have any PC games had Blu-ray versions at this point? I could have sworn I heard about one somewhere a long time ago, but I could be mistaken. Because tons of hardware for years and years and years at this point now have had Blu-ray drives. And it's not like they're rare, it's not like they're expensive, they're pretty damn common. To give you an example, ever since the year 2007, I have had 3 computers. I have had a laptop that I bought in 2007. I had a PC that I built in 2012, I want to say. And, well, it was kind of in around the end of 2011, start of 2012. And then I have this computer that I built in 2016. And, of course, naturally, I'll have another computer that I'm going to build later this year at the end of 2020. And all of these computers, the one I have now, the one I'm going to have later this year, the one I had in about 8-ish years ago, and even the laptop I had back in 2007, all had Blu-ray drives. In fact, my laptop, which I still technically have and barely works, is the one from 2007, not only has a Blu-ray drive, but it has a Blu-ray burner. That's right, I still have a couple of BDREs, rewritable Blu-ray drives, 25 gig versions, somewhere around here. Or are they dual layer? I think they're single layer, but I still have them around here somewhere. And yeah, it's it's very strange that something like this would happen, that they wouldn't bother about it at all. Because when you think about it, a normal dual layer Blu-ray is 50 gigabyte, and of course there are the upgraded ones and all as well that can go up to 100 gigabytes nowadays. But in theory, depending on compression and size and everything included, 2 to 3 Blu-rays could fit this entire thing on there. Now, it also makes you wonder. By the way, I won't be buying the physical edition of this, because when I do decide to get around to it, I'll just download it on Steam. But the interesting thing about it is thinking about other games on PC that are very large in the sense of the physical version of it. Ones that came with many, many multiple discs. I believe GTA 5 was 7 discs, if I recall correctly. I know the PAL Final Fantasy XI starter bundle, when it first launched over here in Europe, has 11 discs. Although, admittedly, those were CDs. But still, it still included 11 discs. And granted, that was, 2004, I think, maybe 2003. But you get the idea. But it's good to see physical games come with many discs, sweet boxes, sweet manuals and all that good stuff. Especially, I mean, hell, you need a manual for one of these bad boys. But still, curious. No Blu-ray version. So, since we were a little bit confused about how we were going to do it here, we will do our usual favorite segment. And then I'll have kind of an extra PSA, extra different segment about it just after this one here. So naturally, first off, we'll start with the reason everyone is here. Q, what is going on? What's up? What's going down? What's the 411? What's going on? What are you playing? Well, as I mentioned previously, last week, Metroid Prime was pretty much all I had been playing. And that was it. And I finished Metroid Prime. It's a great game. It's fantastic in pretty much every way. The only thing that sucks hardcore about it, or the only thing that's not good about it, and unfortunately that thing sucks hardcore about it, is the controls. The controls are very, very Nintendo. They are very, very outdated and behind in their times by 5+ years or so. And it really hampers the game in many ways. But the game itself and so much about the game is brilliant and it's great. And I was looking forward to going from Metroid to Metroid Prime to Metroid Prime 2 to Metroid Prime 3 with maybe something in between to kind of break up the monotony and all as well. But I don't think that's going to happen. More on that in a moment. Also, Halo 3. Halo 3 on PC in a Master Chief Collection did launch earlier this week. And of course, I beasted it because that is what I do, because I am Q and I am a Halo madman. So that was pretty good as well. I wasn't expecting it to launch. Obviously, they just announced a week prior to say, hey, it was going to be it. But I was kind of factoring it in, whenever, wherever. But it's good to see that it came out. Now we just need ODST and Halo 4. Then it can move on to Halo 5 and Infinite as well. So that is going to be amazing. Halo 3 is obviously the best version of Halo 3 on PC, and it is the best port of all the games included, which makes sense since they're doing them chronologically. Naturally, Halo Reach would be the first one. They can use everything they learned in that to improve on the Halo Combat Evolved port. Then they can use everything from that to improve on the Halo 2 port. Of course, the Halo 2 port most notably and most famously fixed the anything above 60 FPS properly. And Halo 3 is even better in that way. So I'm sure ODST will be even better, and Halo 4 will probably be even better again. And then that's when they're going to go back and retroactively patch in and use some more stuff in the previous ones and all too to make them even better. Now, that's it for the moment. There's no upcoming games just yet. I don't know what it's going to be and all as well, but that's where our next one comes in, which is the current, basically, we can call it existential gaming crisis. Now, I talked about this in a separate video, so I'm not going to harp on about it here for ages. I'll just give a quick TLDR version of it, or a Cliff Notes condensed version of it. Currently, I feel like I can't play anything. I feel like I'm just burnt out on gaming practically completely. So much I want to do and have been hyped to do and was looking forward to do, I no longer want to even look at. I don't even have any words to describe how much I hate the idea of playing anything right now. I was really looking forward to, like I said, playing Metroid 2 or Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3. I really wanted to go back and play an old JRPG. I was probably going to be Persona 4 Golden or potentially Chrono Trigger. And now I can't even stomach the sight of them, the idea of playing any of those, the idea of any of it. I don't know what it is. Something about gaming just completely turned me off it right now. And I can't put my finger on it because it hit me a little bit before Metroid Prime, but then when I forced myself to go and start and play Metroid Prime. I figured that would kind of snap me out of it a little bit, and it did to an extent. But about halfway through Metroid Prime, it just crept back up, and it's no fault of Metroid's because I was enjoying myself the entire time and it was a fantastic game. But I don't know, there's all this other stuff I want to do outside gaming, and it's always been there. It's always been appealing to get back to doing it and all as well. But the motivation to do it was very, very low, and I was always just kind of focused on games and all that as well. But now, I don't know if it's because I can't do most of it because of coronavirus and lockdowns and restrictions and whatnot. But for about a week or so, maybe a little bit more, prior to right now, I just have this overwhelming urge and desire for all of this stuff. I really, really want to pick up and continue on all my old hobbies, or many of them. Possibly do something new. There's so much I want. And for possibly the first time in my life, I just can't stomach the idea of gaming at all. Like, I managed to play through Halo 3. There are, of course, one or two games that are a special exception. But just the idea of playing anything right now on PC, on any of my 30-something consoles, on any of my 20-something handhelds, retro, backlog, new, old, favorite game ever, Secret Mana, whatever it is, the idea sickens me. I would rather sit here and stare at a blank wall. I can't even say my paint dry because, I mean, my paint is already dry. But I would just rather do that. That sounds more appealing to me than the idea of even touching or turning on a game at all. We'll see how it lasts in the course of a few days or a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. Stuff like this is always very hard to talk about, and not so much to talk about accurately and properly convey, and who knows how it's going to go on minute to minute, day by day and whatnot. But I'll keep you updated, obviously, every week in these podcasts. If anything big changes, or maybe if there's a major announcement or something like that, maybe it'll get its own video. But anyway, in the meantime, I want to thank everyone for joining me, sticking through this whole thing, because, well, we know how some of this can go with these amazingly high quality production values, and let's face it, as much as I love the sound of my own voice, clearly you guys do too. Anyway, comment section below, you know the drill. Thoughts, questions, feelings, opinions, salt, butthurt, praise, whatever it is, leave it all down there. That's what it's for. In the meantime, hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did in the video, and while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button and even ring that little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year can be basically like pulling teeth, because let's face it, they don't want you watching the Q, the truth, your proper true source for unbiased, unabashed beast mode. Anyway, until next week, remember, winners don't play switch ports.